there. Today we're going to talk about solving absolute value equations. So absolute value equations, like you might have guessed, have absolute value bars in them. The way that we solve those is first we need to undo anything that's happening outside the absolute value bar. So that's what I mean by this little step one here. You want to end up with absolute value stuff on one side equals number on the other. From there you can set up two equations. I'll explain more when we get there. And then you'll solve both of those. Since you're setting up two equations, that means that you get two solutions for these most of the time. So I think it'll make more sense if we just look at an example, so let's get started. This first one, there's nothing happening outside of the absolute value bars on the left-hand side, so we don't really need to worry about doing that first step. It's already done. From there, once you have absolute value stuff equals number, you set up two equations. The reason why I do this, there's two values for n, usually, in most cases, that will make whatever's inside here equal 11. So the way we do our two equations is we leave the stuff that's in the absolute value bars the same, but we get rid of the bars. So n plus 8 equals my original number, 11. Because what that means is some number plus 8 is 11 away from 0 on the number line. That means it's 11 away in a positive direction though. It could also be 11 away in a negative direction. So we also need to set up the second equation, n plus 8 equals negative 11. So once you have absolute value bars by themselves, make two equations. One looks almost exactly like your original but without the bars. The other, we just change the number after the equal sign to a negative. From there, we are going to solve both equations. So this is the same as usual. In fact, if you didn't have this right here before, this looks like stuff we've done before. To get n by itself, I need to undo plus 8 by subtracting 8. And I get 11 minus 8 is 3. That is one of my solutions. Same thing to the other equation. I get n equals negative 19. You're done, but I want to show you quickly why that worked. If I plug in 3 for n, that's absolute value of 3 plus 8, which is absolute value of 11, which is 11. If I plug in negative 19 for n, that's a really weird absolute value bar, sorry about that. I have negative 19 plus 8, which is negative 11. Absolute bit negative 11 is 11. So, like I said, most of the time you'll have two solutions, and in fact, everything we're going to look at today will have two solutions. We'll worry about when there's more than one solution later, or when there's not just two solutions. Sorry, you can have one solution, no solution, we'll do that later. Let's try another one. So, this next one. I do have something happening that's not inside the absolute value bar, so I need to undo that first. The absolute value stuff is all getting divided by 5. To undo dividing by 5, I multiply both sides by 5. So I get absolute value stuff equals 15. From there, I have absolute value stuff on one side, number on the other. I can go ahead and set up my two equations. First one looks like our original, just without the bars. The second one, we make it a negative 15. Now we solve both of those. So this is stuff we've done lots of times before. Our first solution is 17. Our second solution is negative 13. I'm not going to take you through that checking the work process like we did before. I just wanted to show you on the first one why we got two solutions that worked. We'll try two more. Again, both of these next two problems will have two solutions each, because that is usually what happens with absolute value. We'll look at exceptions in the future. You might have noticed I write my absolute value bars kind of big. I do that because otherwise I get confused and I think they look like ones. Alright, so here is my absolute value. I have a minus 7 happening outside though. I need to undo that minus 7 first by adding 7. So I get absolute value stuff equals 8 when I do that. I have just absolute value stuff here. I have number here. So now I can set up two equations. 9p plus plus 1 equals positive 8. 9p plus 1 equals negative 8. And now I solve them both, just like if they were regular equations. My first solution is 7 over 9, which is fine. You can leave it as a fraction or you can write it as a decimal. If you do it as a decimal, round it to 2 decimal places. I'm fine with you writing it either way. Let's solve our other one. When I do that, I get negative 1. So sometimes you'll have one fraction or decimal answer and one integer. Sometimes they'll both be fractions or decimals. Sometimes they'll both be integers. All of those things are perfectly fine. Let's try one last one. So, usually when we see a number in front, we think distributing, we think multiplying. That doesn't work out with absolute value. We need to undo it first, not distribute it. So don't be tricked. So I need to undo this multiplying by 6. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. We divide both sides by negative 6. I get absolute value stuff equals negative 6 divided by negative 6 is positive 1. Now, absolute value stuff equals number. I can make my two equations. And solve them both. Undo your addition first. And then undo your multiplication by dividing. One of my solutions is x equals positive 1. Solve my other equations, be a very similar process. My other solution is x equals negative over negative is positive, so positive 9 over 7, or once again, you could write that as a decimal. We'll continue more with absolute value equations another time. I hope you have a great day.